when I saw Officer Briggs get out of his squad car and angrily approach the car. He pulled out his nightstick and used it to smash the brake light as he walked past, and then used it again and again to put huge dents in the side of the hearse. I flinched each time he hit the car, and Officer Timmons just kept telling me to stay calm and that he would handle things. However, when Officer Briggs got to the driver's side door, he yanked it open and pulled me out, and was about to use his baton on me. Thankfully, Officer Timmons jumped out of the car and pulled his service revolver out and pointed it at Briggs. "You idiot! How many times do I have to tell you to stop driving on my highway before you listen? Do I have to cave in your skull before you do as you're told? Put your weapon down and put your hands on your head. Wait, what the hell? We were driving Officer Larry to his funeral service, you psychopath. I had heard that you were unhinged, but I didn't realize just how much you were. You're under arrest." In a panic, Officer Briggs dropped his baton and ran as quickly as he could back to his squad car and sped off. Hi there, my name is Kyle, and I had something very unusual happen to me. Honestly, I didn't think that something like this would happen outside of the movies, but I guess sometimes life can be very strange and unusual. Let me start off by saying that I work as funeral director, and I have been one for a pretty long time. It's a great job if you don't mind working alongside the deceased. I get to help people when they really need it and make the whole process of saying goodbye to their loved ones a little bit easier. However, I recently encountered someone that didn't agree that my job was important and instead thought it would be funny to mess with me. And of all the people to do it, it was a police officer. The first time that I encountered Officer Briggs was several weeks ago. We had just had a service at the funeral home, and we were transporting the deceased to the cemetery. I was driving the hearse along with my coworker, Daniel, and I was going slightly below the speed limit as I wasn't in a hurry, when suddenly I saw flashing lights behind me. Confused, I pulled over and waited for the officer to come to the side of my car to explain why I was pulled over. "Hey there, speed racer. Where you off to?" "Speed racer?" I'm confused, officer. I was going below the speed limit. "Is something wrong?" "Well, for starters, you shouldn't be on this road going that slow. You're impeding traffic, hence my joke about you speeding. You are going too slow. Do you want me to write you a ticket?" "No, of course not. But I didn't know you could get a ticket for going a little below the speed limit." "You can get a ticket for whatever I say you can get one for." "Sir, with all due respect." "No, you can't." "What's going on here?" "Well, I'm the police officer, so with all due respect, I know the law better than some freak that spends all their time with the dead, so you two morons better listen to me. I patrol this stretch of highway and I really don't want to see you driving along it ever again, or I'll pull you over again. You people make me feel uncomfortable. I don't know how you can have such a gross job unless you enjoy playing with the dead. It's weird." "Sir, we are very respectful in our jobs, and we just help people grieve and have peace. We don't do anything odd, and we aren't freaks." That was when he got very angry, and he pulled out his baton and hit the driver's side door, leaving a decent dent. "You listen to me. I don't trust or like you, and if I see you again, I'll make sure you have a very bad day." He then left, and even though we were shaken up, we knew that we had a job to do, and so we finished the trip to cemetery and had the service there. However, on the way back to the funeral home, we took a completely different route, and it ended up taking us 4 times longer in order to do so. But we had no interest in encountering that cop again. I was so confused by that interaction. After all, we weren't doing anything wrong, and for the officer to get that aggressive was incredibly strange. However, over the course of the next few weeks, Officer Briggs made our jobs very hard. That stretch of highway that he patrolled had 2 very commonly used cemeteries on it, and our clients would often want to be interred there. One week after my encounter with Officer Briggs, Daniel was driving by himself with the hearse on his way to one of those cemeteries when he was pulled over as well. Unlike me though, Daniel had been driving a little above the speed limit, and Officer Briggs gave him a speeding ticket and forced him to wait there on the side of the road until a drug-sniffing dog team would come out and search the hearse. Daniel later told me that he was incredibly scared the entire time. Not that he had anything to hide, but because Officer Briggs was verbally abusive towards him and kept threatening that if Daniel would run, that he would chase him down and use whatever force was necessary to arrest him. Daniel is a shorter man and is very soft-spoken. He's the kind of person that wouldn't even hurt a fly, and for him to be threatened like that was completely unnecessary. He ended up waiting 5 hours until the dog team arrived and did a search of the hearse. When they were done, he was allowed to continue on his way to the cemetery, where the waiting family had grown very worried and impatient. We had to give them a massive discount in order to keep them happy as a result. The next day, I finished work, and I decided that I would go out to eat as it had been a long and stressful day and I wasn't in the mood to cook. I would need to take that same stretch of highway to get where I wanted to go, but since I was driving my own personal car, I figured that it would be okay, but nope. As I pulled out onto the highway, I instantly saw flashing lights behind me. I knew that I wasn't speeding though, so I just assumed that I wasn't really in any trouble. I thought I told you not to drive my stretch of road again. Sir, I just finished work and I'm on my way to get something to eat. Please, I don't want any trouble. Well, you decided to ignore my commands, so to me. That means that you are looking for trouble. I'm surprised that a freak like you goes out to eat. I figured you would just be a cannibal. What the hell? I would never do that. What do you have against me? You work with death and it's weird. Only people that are complete freaks would work such a job. Regardless, I think that you need to step out of the car. Now! Of course I obeyed his command and I got out, but I was terrified. After all, he had struck the hearse unprovoked and I didn't know what he was going to do. Please, officer, I don't want any trouble. And I was obeying the law. Yeah, I don't believe you. Why, I think I smell alcohol on your breath. Maybe we should do a breathalyzer test to make sure you haven't been drinking. I just came from work. There's no way that I was drinking. This is ridiculous. Are you refusing to do the test? Yes, I'm refusing. You're just trying to harass me. That was the wrong thing to say, as he then threw me against my car and handcuffed me and then threw me into the back of his squad car. I tried to ask him what he thought he was doing, but he wouldn't respond. And when we got to the station, he dragged me into the back and threw me in a cell. Hours ticked by until a different officer came and released me from the cell. He told me that Officer Briggs had written up a report saying that I had been drunk and belligerent and that I needed to sleep it off and spend the night in the cell, but that this new officer, Officer Timmons, didn't agree with his assessment, and so he had chosen to let me go. I asked him why Officer Briggs hated me and people in my line of work so much, and the officer told me that Officer Briggs had been married to a funeral director and that he had cheated on her, and she divorced him and had taken him to the cleaners. Briggs had been left with nearly nothing and lived in a small one-bedroom apartment as a result, and that he clearly had a chip on his shoulder ever since. He then apologized and led me outside, and then gave me a ride back to my car that had been sitting on the side of the road where Officer Briggs had initially pulled me over. Thankfully, it hadn't been vandalized or broken into, but I was still furious with what had happened. I wanted to avoid that stretch of highway for the rest of my life, but sadly, I couldn't. I needed to travel that highway for work often, and it was just the most convenient way to get around town as well. However, a week later, my deliverance came into my life. A very old police officer passed away from a heart attack, which was a tragedy, of course. And when Officer Timmons came into my office to plan the funeral service, I suddenly saw it as an opportunity to get revenge on Briggs. I made sure to recommend that we lay the deceased officer in the cemetery along the stretch of highway that Officer Briggs patrolled, and Timmons agreed that it would be perfect. I then asked if Officer Timmons wanted to ride with me in the hearse on the way to the cemetery, and he agreed that it would indeed be an honor to do so. He saw it as a way to show respect to his fellow officer and help escort him to his final place of rest. Sure enough, shortly after we turned onto the highway, we saw flashing lights behind us. Timmons was extremely angry, but said nothing at first. Obediently, I pulled over and waited, and was not the least bit surprised when I saw Officer Briggs get out of his squad car and angrily approach the car. He pulled out his nightstick and used it to smash the brake light as he walked past, and then used it again and again to put huge dents in the side of the hearse. I flinched each time he hit the car, and Officer Timmons just kept telling me to stay calm and that he would handle things. However, when Officer Briggs got to the driver's side door, he yanked it open and pulled me out, and was about to use his baton on me. Thankfully, Officer Timmons jumped out of the car and pulled his service revolver out and pointed it at Briggs. You idiot! How many times do I have to tell you to stop driving on my highway before you listen? Do I have to cave in your skull before you do as you're told? Put your weapon down and put your hands on your head. Wait, what the hell? We were driving Officer Larry to his funeral service, you psychopath. I had heard that you were unhinged, but I didn't realize just how much you were. You're under arrest." In a panic, Officer Briggs dropped his baton and ran as quickly as he could back to his squad car and sped off. I really don't know what he was thinking he would accomplish by doing so, but Officer Timmons radioed in that Officer Briggs was under arrest and that he was fleeing the scene of a crime. After a few minutes of gathering our bearings, we got back into the car and made our way to the funeral service. After all, I'm a professional and I needed to do my job. After the service was over, Officer Timmons informed me that Officer Briggs had been captured and that the officers that caught him had been forced to use their own batons to subdue him, and that when he would get out of the hospital, that he would be charged and face the consequences of his insane actions. It took a whole month for him to recover enough to stand trial for his crimes, but when he did, he was charged with assault and battery, resisting arrest, wrongful imprisonment, and behavior unbecoming of an officer. The judge sentenced him to 10 years in prison, and as a result, he lost his job and pension as well. Officer Timmons later told me that Briggs was having a really rough time in prison, since most inmates despised cops. Timmons said that Briggs was set up by an inmate for possessing contraband, and was badly beaten by the wardens. From then on, the inmates also forced him to clean their cells, and frequently stole his belongings. Whenever he complained to the wardens, they ignored him. Timmons also recalled what the inmates said on the day Briggs was taken to prison. "Once a cop, now just another rat behind bars. You spent your life abusing power, now you're powerless." To this day, whenever I drive down that stretch of highway, I still feel very nervous, even though Officer Briggs is no longer patrolling it. It's still crazy to think that he hated me and people from my company just because we shared the same job as his ex-wife, and that he would be willing to throw away what little he had left after his divorce as a result. The one piece of good news, though, is that I ended up becoming really good friends with Officer Timmons, and he has promised me that Briggs will never again harass me. And I am very grateful for that. Thanks for watching.